Third.
Okay, test. Oh, it's going through the speakers. We don't need that, do we? Test, 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 test.
Yes.
So I'm going to actually live from my desk to monitor for any issues.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Guys, feel free to come up to this week. It's going to be much more comfortable for you. Yeah. And then you can take this signature now.
Do I need the mic up?
Yeah, I think the mic is. Let's see what Andy says. I may need the mic to introduce you.
Oh, that's right. You have to get your.
And then, so I may not attach it. So Andy, the mic's good to go?
Yep.
Okay, so after I'm done, I can just
It's live as well.
connect it. So for questions, I guess Jack will have to repeat them for the audio to get caught up.
Well, we have the microphone.
We do have the
Microphone's
microphone. So I can let him mic up
Yep,
and I can
you
take the
stay-
mic?
you can stay
Okay.
there.
You
Oh,
can
okay,
mic
so I
up
can
and
mic
I'll
it.
take the portable mic.
So, the video doesn't like that. The screen is really small, at least we have audio.
Okay.
So,
And is my Wi-Fi working? I just started as a mom,
so this one's currently muted. I don't know if you want to mute your one as well for now.
Okay, I'll mute it for
It's
now.
quite easy. It's just that one. Yep. That's
Top button. I saw no change.
Testing, testing.
Okay, so I'm live now,
Just, yeah.
and quiet.
Should I go ahead and get him started?
Yeah. What you can do?
Did you guys ready? Just make sure he's good to go.
And Rob, I'm going to do a lap around the room, introductions, and what you're doing, and what you look to get out of this if I've done my job. And I'm going to start with you. So it's a one call, okay? And then we'll do a lap. Then you're next, okay? So we'll do a lap around the room.
We are really excited that you're joining us today. We're using microphones today, not just for your benefit of hearing, but because we're actually live feeding this to a few of our friends. So hi, everyone on live feed. It's really great to have you with us as well. So glad that you're here. This is part of a series of management training that AUL offers as a free benefit to partner organizations such as the organizations that you represent. This is the first course of 4 that we're going to be doing over the spring into the summer. And we're really excited to have this opportunity for you as well as for our own staff who have benefited greatly from the last sessions we provided. And I know that there's some return attendees here, so it's good to see you guys as well. It's my pleasure to introduce our instructor today, Professor Jack Yost. Professor Yost is currently the Clinical Assistant Professor of Management and Deltac Fellow teaching graduate business students at the Catholic University of America. He is also the President of Management Training of DC and LLC, and he has worked with clients across the United States and in India and East Asia. He is widely published, including having works published by Scripps Howard, National Review Online, and the Business Monthly. He served as a gubernatorial appointee in the administration of Governor James Gilmore of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And he also has acted as the Chief Technology Officer for the Secretary of Health and Human Services, where he was responsible for their successful year 2000 Y2K conversion for the 16,000 employee units. And he also served as Assistant Secretary for Health and Human Resources, acting as the Chief Operating Officer of the $5 billion budget.
Back then.
Yeah, no, that's impressive, Jack. Professor Yost has managed entrepreneurial startup ventures. His experience includes managing the transfer of patented biotechnology from National Institutes of Health to his client, which enabled the company to raise $25 million in venture capital fundraising. One of my favorite parts of Jack's bio is that he is a vet. He's a former captain in the United States Army, having served in combat arms. He earned his MBA from George Mason University and completed graduate work in the International Operations Management Program at Oxford University. And of course, he is the husband of my boss, Dr. Charmaine Yost, President and CEO at Americans United for Life. They live in Arlington, Virginia, with 3 of their 5 children. 2 of their children are off at college, and their other 3 children are here with us today. That is Gibby, James, and Sarah. So please join me in welcoming Jack, and thank you guys again for attending, Jack.
All right, thank you. It is a delight and honor to be here with you this morning for a couple of hours. We're going to divide this series of seminars into 4 sections. Today, we're going to talk about an overview of what is completed staff work, some definitions, some ground rules. And we're going to have the next 3 are going to be on, I'm going to divide it into path and problem and presentation. So we're going to have more than 1 class on this, and we're going to have a series of 4. And these are short classes. It'll be about 2 hours and be over lunch. And at the end of this, I hope to have you and your organizations understand what completed staff work is, what it is not, how it will advance organizational goals, make your organizations better, but really how it will help you individually get to what you want to do, which is promotions or more responsibility, or to increase your value in your organization. Now, so that I know how to best tailor my brief remarks today, because we're only going to be at 1 o'clock, and we're going to be done soon enough. I'm going to do a quick lap around the room, and what I'd like you to do is introduce yourself, and I'm going to have Rob Silva go first over there, and then we're going to work around the room. And what I want to do is get your name, your organization, and if I've done my job here at the end of our brief conversation today on the overview of completed staff work, what would you be looking for out of our time together? And you can repeat what other folks are doing, but if there's something in particular that you're looking for, or that your organization is looking for, or your boss is looking for, or that you think that we should hear, does that make sense? So let's start with Rob. What are you here for? What are you here for?
I'm here for myself. Good morning, my name is Rob Silva. I'm a professional fundraiser. Work for a company in Baltimore, Messenger Communications, and how to get out of it is just a deeper understanding of management principles.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Dr. Martin. I'm the database administrator here at Americans United for Life, and I've been in Jack's previous training sessions, and it's been very helpful. I hope to, learn more about how to relate things to my managers and how I will be effective in what I do from a management standpoint. So that is why I'm partaking in this.
Thank you, Doug. My name is Dave Messick. I'm the Director of Development here at AUL. And I guess I'm looking forward to just any tips, ideas I can get, and maybe how to better prioritize and multitask and get that mountain, the endless mountain of work at hand completed.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Ashley Brandon. I'm the External Relations Representative at Focus on the Family. I work here on Capitol Hill, but the rest of us are in Colorado Springs.
Of course.
If ideally, I would love to be able to see how having a servant leadership role in a situation could also be not just only seen as being gracious, but also not also seen as a weakness as well, but also be seen as more of a strength. But still doing it when we have our faith on the line and where we're wanting to show more of an evangelical side of what we're doing with, you know, in our jobs.
Ah, very good. Okay. So we took over, Andy.
Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, well, your name, the organization, and what you're looking to get out of the seminar.
Okay, my name is Andy Moore, and I work here at Americans United for Life. I do things online, and I'm keen to learn about how I can make my boss look good.
Ah, oh, yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Christine Urias. I'm undergraduate teaching assistant for Professor Yost at Catholic University. I'll also be interning for PricewaterhouseCoopers this summer, so I wanted to learn more about how to be effective being at the bottom of the totem pole, I guess.
Best TA in the business too.
Thank you.
Very good. How many did you?
Hello, my
The
name is
time,
John
the
Davis. I work for the
12:30.
Leadership Institute. And my boss's boss
12:30.
is a big believer in managing management time, and so I'm here to learn
It'll
more
be at
about how he
12:30.
thinks.
Very good.
My name is Mitch Noska. I also work at Leadership Institute, and I'd like to learn how to become both a better servant and leader.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Allison Howard. I am going to be the Director of Alliance Relations at Alliance Defending Freedom starting April 5th.
Very good.
And I've been in Dr. Yo's previous management course and just really enjoyed hearing the business side of management from a CEO level. And I'm really interested in building and serving allies and also probably conflict resolution down and out management.
Very good.
I am Missy Stone. I am newly the National Field Director for Students for Life. So being in a new management role and being young, I'm looking to glean any wisdom I can on management, specifically with retention of very difficult jobs and specifically leading young people as a young person and then just dealing with
Hi, I'm Melissa Ortiz, and I'm a return attender who hopes to be at all 4 seminars this year, instead of just the one that I attended last year, because I like what you have to say. But I'm developing a niche for myself in helping people understand how to fix what's wrong in their organization, and I'm looking for a way to better present that.
Hi, my name is Peter Buckingham. I'm at the Charles Cook Foundation, and learning, I feel like we're always going to be working with or under or for over someone in our careers, and so this is kind of a good, there's no reason not to kind of learn best practices.
Okay, yeah.
Hi, I'm Kristen Owens, also at the Charles Cook Foundation. I guess, yeah, process optimization and also just making my boss look good, which is what someone said, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, Janine Maxon with Americans United for Life. I guess my issue is I oversee multiple departments here at AUL. I have a lot of direct reports on staff, but also a lot of vendors that I work with, and it gets very complicated when you have, not an exaggeration, 30 different projects moving along, and what's the best way to kind of track that and make sure people are taking responsibility to report back to me and make sure that things are getting done and in a way that I'm able to crystallize that and report it up to my boss just to keep the organization moving forward.
Hi, I'm Katie Yoder with the Media Research Center. I'm a staff writer and reporter there. And I'm just looking for general tips to become a more valuable resource for my boss and for my organization.
I am a college student. I am applying for a bunch of internships this summer, and I guess I'm just here to learn as much as possible about being a good worker.
Okay, very, very good. Helen Gilbert's my middle child here. She's also going to be our timekeeper today, going to interrupt me promptly at 12:30, and we'll be taking a brief 10-minute break there. And of course, you can eat as we talk at the same time. Now, the one word that describes completed staff work is anticipation. Anticipation. That we're going to predict what the boss wants, and if we're really good at it, we can predict what the boss wants even before the boss knows what he wants. And we'll be able to do this in a way that gives him a completed piece of information, a completed piece of documentation, a completed piece of a decision memo, that the boss, all thing that he has to do is to make a decision. We, as individual contributors, we do all the work. the boss makes a decision, and that's all that the boss should do is make decisions. Now, this sounds simple, this sounds easy, but all across America, clients and in academia, is that there's a great deal of confusion on that because most managers have a challenge with this because we all, as individual contributors, cannot be blamed for not quite understanding some of the things that we want to learn here, is because many managers are still trying to learn how to do this also, because there's two different groups of people on the planet. There's individual contributors. These are the people like I'm doing now, that do the doing, the hands-on, that get the work done actively as an individual getting the work done. Now, the manager, as you know, gets things done through other people. So the manager doesn't do any real work, as we know work to be. Managers get things done through other people, and that would be us as individual contributors getting the work done individually for the boss, for the organization. Okay. Now, the best way that we can do this as individual contributors is to anticipate what the boss wants. Now, let's start with a couple of myths that I want to a couple of lies that we've all been told for a while. Let's start with one. In academia, it's not your fault if you feel this way, and you cannot be blamed that you've gone through 16 or 18, lots of schooling, and you've heard over and over again, there's no such thing as a stupid question, right? You're wrong. Okay, yeah, that's right. You've heard it, you've been taught it. There's no such thing as a stupid question. And what I want to start with today is that in the first step in the completed staff work is that we as individual contributors, we do the work. Remember, the boss makes the decision. So the first step in all of this is that there is such a thing as a stupid question, in that if I do have a question, I can either ask my boss, or I can ask the boss's secretary, I can ask my next door neighbor, I can ask my teammate, I can ask my cube mate, I can ask somebody other than the boss. Now, what's the variable? Is it a stupid question or not? It is the same question. What's the variable? Who you ask? Exactly. So I've got the same question. I have the same need for knowledge. I get the same information that I have to get. There's the same work I have to do, and I can get it either from my boss or I can get it from some other source. But it depends upon if I ask my boss this, it then becomes a stupid question. Okay, because what we want to do is protect the boss's time. The most valuable thing that your manager has is discretionary management time. We want to give he or she all the time in the world to make a decision. All right, we don't want to be asking bosses questions. Now, the great challenge for managers is that the manager will know the answer to the question and can do it and can help and advise and there are some things that only the manager can answer. Now, that's the great challenge of the individual contributors. What questions can I not get answered anyplace else that can only be answered by the boss? See, and that takes wisdom and judgment, because I'm going to go bother the boss. But it better be something that only the boss can do. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's where wisdom and judgment comes in, because I had a great challenge with this too in working in very large organizations, where I would have staff come in and say, "Boss, I've got a quick question." Well, the questions are always quick, aren't they? It's the answers that take so long. So we want to avoid that, though. We want to set the boss up for success and give the boss as much time as he or she needs and get the answers to start with on our research from some other place. All right. So that's our first myth that we'll dispel, that there is such a thing as a silly, let's not call it stupid, a silly question that academia has taught us to start with. All right. Now, and the challenge of completed staff work, which is described as anticipation, is not just with this organization or other organizations. It's existed almost forever at all levels. The story is told of Henry Kissinger, who was Secretary of State to President Nixon, and Kissinger is a professor at Harvard, but he knew how to manage stuff. It's rather unusual for an academic. He knew how to run things. and he's running the State Department, and he has a project that's being worked on by his staff, and his staff comes up to him and has the project, the deliverable, all set to go, puts it on the boss's inbox, and the next day it comes back to the staffer with a note saying, did you consider all the external variables? And the guy gets it, and it goes back to his staff, and they could try to staff it out again. Resubmit it back to Henry Kissinger. And Kissinger says, did you consider all the internal variables? Hands it back to the staffers. The staffers get in and said, good gosh, what a Henry Kissinger, what a jerk he is. And they start working on it again, and they resubmit it back to the boss again. And the boss, now Henry Kissinger looks at it and says, well, did you consider all the internal variables inside the State Department? Hands it back again. And then finally, the staff finally understands, come on in, understands that, wait a minute. We've been working on this thing, and working on this thing, and working on this thing, and we've been working on this thing. And they say to Professor Kissinger, Dr. Kissinger, we have staffed this out. We have answered all your questions. We have anticipated every need. We've looked at every single thing that could possibly happen in this situation. This is the best we can do. And Henry Kissinger says, is this really the best you can do? And the guy lets loose with some very bad words, and he says, yes, gosh darn it, this is the very best we can do. And what does Henry Kissinger say then? Now, so I'm glad to hear it. Okay, now, what was he doing? He was saving a lot. Yes, he was saving a lot of time, because ordinarily most managers are trying to be polite, trying to be nice, because the one word that describes management is relationship. So good bosses are trying to help their staff and coach them along, and would have ordinarily taken the time to evaluate each one, do corrections on each one, then send it back, and then the paper just simply does lapse. We have created work for our boss. And many times when we do this, we're asking questions of the boss and burdening the boss on this, burdening the manager. And as a result of this class, even starting today, in this briefest of overview of what completed staff work is, you will walk away with a couple of tools that make sure that the boss has just what he needs to make a decision. Now, this has a couple of variables that goes with this. We're going to have this so that the boss can make the decision. We do the work, and the boss decides. Now, on the outline I have here on number 3, you'll see that I have a quote, and it is finished. Where does this come from? Okay, it's out of Scripture, and it simply says that the work has been done and there's nothing to be added. Now, this deals in the world of perfection with the Creator and the Christ, and the completed work that's done, nothing can be added. It's all done. Now, for us as individual contributors, will we ever get that kind of perfection? No, not on this side of eternity. We're not. So we have some limitations, and let's understand that we are not going to be perfect. We're going to have some challenges on delivering what the boss needs, with some caveats. In that, if we have unlimited time, if we have unlimited budget, and we have unlimited talent. In the old cliche is you got time, talent, or treasure. Pick one or pick two, because that's all we're going to get. Because you're not going to have an unlimited time, you're not going to have unlimited budget, and you're not going to have the talent you're going to need. So if you have a particular project that you're working on, somebody's going to be out sick. There'll be something that won't work. You won't be able to have the talent to make something work. You won't have the budget you need. Then you'll have financial constraints to make something work, or you just don't have the time. So the alert staffer, the talented staffer, is able to balance those 3 variables of what we need for the boss, and exercise wisdom and judgment, and putting together a decision memo that works with those constraints. So we need to know, of course, there's a deadline, how fast does the boss need it, and the timing will give me a good indication of how many people I have to vet this thing, or how much time I have to vet this thing through. Now, vet, as you understand, is not a shortening of Corvette. It's VET, which means to clear. In this town, we're vetting a document, vetting an option, vetting a decision. And we're going to do this across the organization, wherever Henry Kissinger wanted to go with that, we want to vet it out to clear it, to make it easier for the boss to say yes to the recommendation. So let's look at what that looks like. Now, we have a clip that we can do over here. Go ahead and cue up the Google intern clip. What I'm going to have coming up here is a short 3-minute clip from the movie The Intern that had Vaughn and Daryl Wilson on it, showing a brief vignette on what it's like in a way for completed staff work. And what this shows is of the individual contributors doing the work, and so that everything gets done. Okay. And
so that we can review your work later.
okay, it's okay. We'll run with that.
Google Helpline, my name's Billy. How can I help you? Great, so you're saying that you're locked out of your Gmail.
Hello to you.
Well, the good news is Uncle Bill here happens to keep a key under the mat.
But I'm gonna play a hunch here. Delete all your cookies. That work? Great. Glad I could help.
Yeah, what it is you probably just have too many Gmails open at the same time. You want to try to go ahead and close a couple of those out and see if that does it? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
It's not a problem. You're gonna click on the gear icon and then settings, then advanced.
Yeah, you can actually have the same tabs open across all your devices.
So the browser windows keep on opening, and you're telling me that that's from Amazon?
Confused them now while you send parcel.
But here's what I want to do. I want to help you clear that up before the wife gets them. Want to make it sense?
Okay, you're going to assign to Google Wallet and then your credit card expiration date. That's the problem.
Well, the calendar sync issue pops up when you switch time zones. Are you on vacation? I am. Very nice. Well, let's get your browser and cache cleared up. And I'm going to talk to you the best Cuban spots in town.
Okay, your device probably isn't compatible with Google Play.
I don't want to have you out there saucing, sweating, and grinding up against a complete stranger that you don't even know, having a pretty good time doing some wrong things. Are we on the same page?
Okay, see that box at the bottom of your window? Click that twice for me.
Come on, baby. Let me do that. Come on, girl. You can go any longer. So soon? Man, I was just getting warmed up here. Come on, ladybug.
Please submit your log files so that I may review your work later.
All right, faculty, just click the blue button.
Where's that at?
Click the blue button, upper left.
Mine's not blue, mine's gray, up in the corner. It's not that click.
The blue one, yeah.
Mine wasn't clicking, mine's gray. Is anyone else's gray?
Did you not hear my opening remarks?
Yeah, no, I heard most of your opening remarks. Just I was getting in the zone. I was peeking.
It's very clear that you're to log into your accounts and you're to review your work later.
Well, the good news is that you reviewed my work now. You don't need the instant replay because you saw the touchdown live in person.
I don't really understand that analogy, but I do know that attention to detail is of paramount importance here. My instructions were explicit. There's no recording. Then it's as if you didn't even show up today.
Except I did show up. I'm sitting right here, Jenny.
Well, according to your log, you're not. And since every intern must complete the challenge in order for your team to be scored, your team will unfortunately receive a score of 0.
All right. I'm going to ask you what you think about this. Annie, I'm going to get your reaction to this clip here on, because you're the technologist, of course. But I'm going to get your reactions on what this has to do with completed staff work and what this and the lesson and the takeaway for us is on just this 3-minute clip. What do you think, Andy?
I'm sorry, I was not able to see the screen.
Oh no. Okay. Okay. Who did see the screen? Because we didn't have it on the big screen there. Yes, sir.
Failure to follow through and follow directions not only harms you but also harms the people around you.
And the team. All right. So what grade did the team get? 0. They got nothing. They got nothing. Okay. Now, as you probably know, your business professor ran a software company for a short period of time, and I had very good staff that was very good at keeping me away from a keyboard. They're very talented at that, because if I got on a keyboard, I wanted to do stuff, and I'm not really that talented with HTML or PHP, but I knew enough to be dangerous to screw up the team. So one of the things I learned about software companies and completed staff work is that you could be 99% there, and you got nothing. You have to be 100% there. You have to hit the submit button and have it all done before you can actually have a completed product. Does that make sense? Any other reactions to this clip? Yes, sir.
I guess good work is only as good as the outcome.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And because he probably did do good work there. But if it wasn't complete, if it wasn't done, if it wasn't in a form that the boss could use, it didn't matter how it was good. That's perfect. Now, this is important. Let me stay with this for just a second. Then Ortiz, I want to go to you on this. In that, we deal in the world of perfection. As individual contributors, it's got to be right. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be done on time, on budget, and we've got to get it right. But if we miss a step, if we miss the final step, and we don't package it to conform to the buying habits of the boss, remember, in our last class, we're going to talk about presentations. If we have to put it in a way that the boss can grab a hold of it. And in this case, what was required for the boss to get a hold of it was to hit the submit button. So we missed out on even no matter how good the work was, how much time was invested, all the study that the whole team had to do, if we missed that final step where the boss couldn't grab a hold of it, nobody's buying it. And all the work for nothing. Yes, ma'am. Oh.
Thank you, guys. One of the things that struck me is I'm also a communications person.
Yes.
And I have noticed that people listen to formulate their response, and they think that they can effectively listen when they are doing other things, and only really talented people with lots of experience can do that. And he simply was not listening because he was too busy getting in the zone that worked for him. And when you work for someone else, your zone becomes whatever is important to them, not what is important to you.
Exactly. Now, this is a trick question, but work with me. When you're in an organization, who sets your priorities? Do you set your priorities, or does the boss set the priorities? Say again? The goal of the organization. And how does that get to you? The boss. The boss is the one that sets your priorities. The boss is the one who sets the policy. We don't do that. The boss does that. So one of the takeaways today on doing completed staff work is that the boss sets the boss is the boss. The boss sets the priorities. And if the boss says, hit the submit button, if we don't do that, no matter how good our work product is, it's not good enough. Yes, ma'am. There's another. Yes, ma'am.
For me, I think it brought up a good issue of fairness. And I think it goes back to Ashley's question of servant leadership, because I see that and wonder what would have been more damaging to morale. If he had just let this guy off the hook and said, fine, I saw it, what does it do to the other teams that followed every step? So is it more damaging to give so-called mercy, to let every other team that did it right feel like it didn't matter that much, or to be the tough guy in that situation and say, these are the rules, and I'm so sorry, but you'll have a shot maybe again in the future. So that issue of fairness, which I think is for a lot of people that want to be kind, what does it do for morale?
No, exactly. And in the last two classes, we're going to talk about the presentation and the path on how we work out a completed piece of staff work. And we're going to talk about that because one of the great challenges of management leadership is how do we balance that fairness with justice, with mercy on this side of eternity? How do we get that right so that it benefits the organization? Because remember, we are in an organization for good, and that's what virtue is. Virtue is the opposite of vice. Vice is bad, virtue is good, and we're doing good. And we don't want to see, as we say at the Catholic University of America, that we're doing business as a force for good. So we're trying to always do good, but part of the challenge is that sometimes there needs to be some correction in that. And that's why we have policies that are set up by the boss, and procedure is how we enact that policy. We'll talk about that difference in just a second. Any other thoughts? Okay, good. this is a way to get, and let me not let me put a fine point on this. This is a way to make you valuable in an organization and doing the work that is complete, so that we can get you either promoted or get you the greatest return on your time and talent as we can. Even if you don't aspire to management, even if this is not your particular calling, and even if you just want to be the best individual contributor that you can, you are still going to be managing a process, and which is completed staff work. Let me tell you how we're going to turn each of you into managers of your own self and of your own work. As the alert student knows, there's 4 parts of management: to plan, organize, lead, and control. So the plan part is easy. That's the first part of what we're going to do. The organized part is that who's going to do it? What resources? Human resources, what people are involved, what do I need to do this? And the plan, organize, the lead and motivate are probably the toughest part of completed staff work. Lead and motivate is normally how a manager gets things done, and the tough part for a manager, the easy challenge for a manager is that if you don't do the job, the boss has as his final authority is to fire you. You know, as a condition of employment, you must do this. If you're managing this as an individual contributor for completed staff work, you don't have the authority to fire anybody. Okay, you've seen how this is getting real complicated in a hurry? And the final part of plan, organize, lead, and control is the evaluation. Is how did it work? How did we get it done? So here we are. Even if you're not a manager getting work done through other people, you have an even tougher job of managing the process of completed staff work, because you're going to be working with resources people that you can't fire. Okay? And almost as bad as people know you can't fire them. Okay? So this is where you don't have the position of authority, you have the position of power, and power is simply influence. Okay. So let me talk a little bit about what completed staff work is to start. The one word to describe it, as you know, is the one word to describe, say again? Anticipation. The one word that describes completed staff work is anticipation. Now, the first step in this anticipation of what the boss wants, it can come in a couple of directions. It can come from the boss for you to solve a problem, or more likely than not, you're going to see the problem before the boss does. You, as individual staffers, we're going to see a problem or opportunity. The next class I'm going to talk about problems, but the problem, I just stay with problem, path, and presentation because I got that alliteration thing going on. So but I'm call it a problem because that's normally what we're going to see, but it could be an opportunity. All that the problem is just a change in an organization. So any kind of change is going to cause its own set of problems, even if it's good, even if it's an opportunity, even if it's something to make something good happen, it's still a change in an organization. So the first step in this is in the evaluation of this completed staff work is that we as individual contributors will probably see it first. So we're going to see something first, a problem or opportunity. And we're going to see it before the boss will see it, because he is working through 3, 4, 5, or maybe 10 individual contributors. And we, literally on the front lines, we literally in the trenches, will see a problem or opportunity before the boss will. So we get it first. We're, as individual contributors, we're going to see about it first. Now, the first thing that we want to do with this problem or opportunity is to look at the whole landscape of the problem that we're looking at. Now, in the early days of submarines, my father, your grandfather, served on submarines in World War II. In the early days of World War I, when they had submarines, they would be underwater, periscope would come up, and they'd look, and they'd look around in front of them, and they would drop the periscope. But as they dropped the periscope, what happened is, one time a ship came up behind them and hit the submarine from behind, because the guy on the periscope did not do a 360, did not go all the way around to see the whole landscape, the whole horizon around him. So what the boss is looking for and any kind of completed staff work is, did you look at the whole horizon? And I'm looking for all the variables to consider from multiple sources inside and outside the organization. Does that make sense? So what we want to do is a periscope to look all the way around us to see that we're not getting blindsided, so that the boss knows that something's coming out from another part of the organization or from outside the organization. Does that make sense? So we're looking at the whole landscape to start with. So after we've evaluated the literature, the landscape, as much as time, talent, and treasure will allow, we're going to have looked around us, then we're going to develop some options. Here are some things that we can do. So we come up with some different alternatives, and we have 4 or 5, 3, 4, 5, number of different things that the boss could do, what we could do. And after we come up with 3 or 4 options, alternatives, are we going to go to the boss and say, boss, what do you want to do? Well, you're right. The answer is no. You're right. No. No is the right answer. Why do you say that? That's right.
The boss is outsourcing your brain.
Perfect.
And your responsibility is to analyze and give him options for him to make a decision, not for him to do the analysis.
That's right. All right. Now, you see how simple this is? It's simply said, and if we have management that understands what you just said and have staff that helps the boss understand this, then we can make America, we can save the republic. We can make things move a whole lot faster, better, and cheaper. In that, remember with Kissinger, when he kept handing that piece of paper back, a couple of things happened. Kissinger did push it back out, and as wisely was said, is to outsource that and use your intelligence to give me a recommendation. The staffer didn't quite understand because he kept submitting work that needed more work. So first thing that he's going to do, we're going to go around the landscape, consider all the different options. Then we're going to narrow it down to 3 or 4 alternatives. And we do not ask the boss what to do. What do? We do recommend. Okay, well, of those 3 or 4 different options, a boss, I recommend we do A. We do B. All right. Now, I've got to tell you, as the boss, I'm looking at all the options here. I really don't care. Okay. You know, I've got 10 direct reports. I got 10 of you guys, and I got problems like this coming over the transom all the time. And your boss might even be a little bit crooked. So option B, go just take care of it. And if your boss is ever that rude or short with you, or curt or rude, I want you to be happy. I want you to be ecstatic, because your boss is just giving you authority through his implied authority through him, and giving you the responsibility and giving you the freedom to go act in his name and solve the problem. Does that make sense? That's the ideal that we're looking for, that your boss gets tired of seeing you, throws you out of his office, and what are you wasting my time for? Why don't you just go ahead and do it? Wow. Okay, that's when you alert your significant other that the boss has just given me freedom to do something big on this. Okay, so what we're going to ask for and demand from our staff, when you reach management, demand from our staffers, we're going to make this available to the boss, is that we've evaluated all the landscape. We've vetted it out inside and outside the organization. We've talked to numbers of people inside the organization. Then we've come up with 3 or 4 different options, and then we take one of those options as a recommendation and say, boss, I recommend B, and most of the time he'll say yes. Now, I remember my first day at state government, I was with Brenda. She was my secretary, one of my secretaries, and I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, I'm brand new on the job, and even if I was there 5 years, I don't. Management is an on-the-job training exercise, and you only learn to do it by doing it, and your boss doesn't know what they're doing. Okay, all right. Okay, they're learning on the job. Your boss will never tell you this. Okay, unless they've sat in our class here, in these seminars, they'll have an idea of the art and science of it, but most managers don't know how to do it. So I wasn't about to tell her, hey, lady, I've been here all day. I haven't got a clue of what you're asking me to do. So I would say, Brenda, what do you recommend? She says, well, I don't know. You have to make the decision. I guess I don't have to make the decision, but what do you think? Well, I don't know. Brenda, what do you recommend? Because the problem was simply a fork in the road. Could have gone left, could have left. it was a low probability of anything going wrong. And so it did, even if it was a wrong decision, it wouldn't have hurt too much. And I was the new guy anyway. I didn't care what the answer was. And then, because she kept throwing it back, said, boss, you have to make a decision. She was asking me what to do. And all I was looking from her was just a recommendation. And I said, well, what have you normally done in days past, with in years before? And she says, well, we usually, did option A. I said, great, Brenda, thank you. Go and do option A. Let me know how it turns out. And she went off and did option A. I don't know. I don't care. All I remember is the terror on that poor bureaucrat's face of that she was going to have to make a recommendation, and I was going to yell at her or something. And it turned out fine. But that's what we have trained people to behave. When we talk about empowerment, no, I hate empowerment. It sounds too close to entitlement, as Peter Drucker said. But that's not the case. We want the very best at outsourcing their talent and harnessing what they can find out. And she'd been there for years and knew how systems work. I'd been there all day, but she wants a decision from me. I just wanted a recommendation. See how simple that is? All right. Now, this, of course, is within boundaries. The boundaries, as we know, are the time, talent, and treasure, and the resources that we have available, and you as the individual contributor. Now, one of the things I want you to walk away with this is to have a great deal of grace for your boss, and of course for each other on your team. But I want you to have particular grace for your manager, because there are 1,000 variables to go into this form of completed staff work, and the most important part of it is you as us here, because I'm acting as an individual contributor in this capacity. As an individual contributor, I've got two things I'm going to offer my boss: the content of the recommendation and the options and the research that I've done. So I've got the content to go on. Is it good content or not? And I've got my character. Does he trust my character? So does he trust what I'm doing? Does he trust me to do it? And do I have a track record of doing that? So I'm a nice guy who does good work, and I've got a track record for doing that. With the boss, simple question: wouldn't the boss find it easier to adopt any recommendation that I make with that kind of track record? See how easy this is? But nobody's perfect. On this side of eternity, we don't have nobody. There's always some challenges, and it's usually a time issue that compresses it, where I can't do the vetting that I'd want to do. I just didn't have time to look at everything. But under this set of circumstances, this is the best that can be done. In the fact that we need to act within 4 hours to make this decision, this is the best that we can do. And the only thing that the boss has then is to trust the content, what I've done so far, but to trust my character and my track record for having done this in the past. And that's why many managers get criticized for having too much loyalty. Remember George Bush said that he's loyal to his staff? Well, he was, and it wasn't always perfect, but part of the challenge is that in a fast-moving environment, which we're all operating under these days, internet time, is that we have compressed time, and the only thing we can trust, the content, goodness gracious, it moves so fast and things change so much that the content is hard to do. All of that we can do that is really trust the character of the person bringing it to us and his track record for being right most of the time. Now, as individual contributors, our work is to be perfect, and to be perfect all the time. The boss deals in the world of imperfection, but the best thing that we have going for us is a track record of being right most of the time. Right? Does that make sense? All right. Now, and we're going to take a break here in just a couple of minutes now. But what I want you to think on is a particular challenge that you had in an organization where your boss was not happy with, and if you can speak in a public forum, or if you know a friend that had a problem or a challenge with incomplete staff work, and how did you recognize what it was? So let's go ahead and take a break, and we can finish up lunch, and we'll reconvene in about 15 minutes. All right. Thank you.
And there is a restroom right behind the open area. And there's also a restroom.
Oh, I got your phone, sweet. I'm sorry. I have it all the time. What color is that?
That's black.
No. What color is that?
Oh, that's green.
So you can go after, if a company goes under, you can go after the company email for the task. I can go after the person responsible for taking it. All that. There was never a definition of the statute of limitations for us to go after that person forever. Remember, you still had time, but then you expected it 7 years ago. Give me a bright line. 5 years, 10 years. So I'm not litigating. Those accounts have a field day on that. And you know, it'd be like, and I've actually talked to a different tax commissioner on another thing. It's like, yeah, I've had a liaison in the AG office, and I had a legislative liaison from the governor's office in this whole tax issue, whether they could identify legislative fixes. They got something to say. So I talked to the co-locate. So you have liaison, some of the tax people all together, and actually talk to them. So it would have been a great thing. The other thing you find is that the support staff, they all unionized, realize you can never get rid of them. And the line attorney is having no power. So, oh my, yeah. So how did, I know it sounds funny, but how did you ever get anything done on time, on budget? The union knowledge was, wow. You have over the secretary. There are the things you should be after the secretary, and these are the things that an expectation of performance from that person. And oh God, we can't fire anybody. Not that we would, but just the threat is enough to. It's not fair. But I guess I did say we did it, but it was you were appointed, but no, you were not appointed. I'm an elected official appointed, but wide it out. We've got time for a 3-year conference. So we didn't find the fact that this was that. Yeah, the office is always there. I'm glad to have you here in DC, though. So you're on the Virginia side of Maryland, so we're on the Maryland side. We're up here in Columbia, Maryland. I qualified to do military college. Good for you. Sure. And it's like the lady with the learning advantage in this job. And the silver transferable. Yeah, very good. Yeah, that's always a distinction that's always a challenge because we're just starting to learn how to be a boss. That's you can manage numbers, you can manage your behavior, but as you well know these days, no anybody wants to do it. They got to be internally motivated to do it. So that's the greatest challenge is trying to teach people to manage your leadership. First rule is
I want to welcome you back to completed staff work, and we've got exactly 49 minutes left in this section. We're going to do a couple of things here in our short time remaining. I want to first open the floor up briefly for any particular questions on completed staff work, what worked or didn't work in your current situation, or if you have a friend with that, with completed staff work. And what we're going to do here in about 30 minutes, I want to reserve the final 15 minutes. We're going to do another lap around the room to see if there was a match between what you were looking for coming in and what we walked away with in just this initial one. This is an overview, but just to see if there was a match between what you were looking for coming in and what you expect. If I'm matching expectations, does that make sense? Or if it was something and totally different. And what I'm looking for is to see if there's a match in expectations when we close, and meeting expectations, or maybe one thing that you learned, or one thing from this short time together that would be a takeaway. Just one thing that would be a takeaway from this initial class. We've got 3 more to go after this. All right. And I want to open the floor, and then as soon as I get some feedback initially here, we're going to lead off with a short clip. It's less. It's even shorter than short. It is a TV trailer for the sitcom, for the comedy show MASH that was popular in the early '80s, and our patron saint Radar Ryan. We'll do that in just a minute. Now, before we start, any questions on completed staff work and any particular challenges that you'd like to put on the floor? Yes, ma'am. Say again.
So I have about 11 people under me, and then I have a boss who is extremely busy.
Good.
And
True.
part of my job is to make sure that the time discretion, like make sure things don't go to Kristen
right.
should be going to Kristen.
That's
And
right.
The problem with like the email age
Oh.
is that they email her anyway.
Oh, no.
And I can't figure out how to, no matter how many times I say, come to me, don't go to Kristen, come to me, don't go to Kristen, come to me, don't go to Kristen, they still just email her and it tags her inbox. Do you have any like, I don't know, tips?
Oh, this is one of the greatest challenges, especially in this day. It has always existed before, but it's more of a challenge in these days. In that, what you're describing is a simple chain of command challenge, in that your staffers are jumping the chain of command. That would be you, and talking to your boss's boss. You can't ever do that. But the reason why this is even more of a challenge these days is because of millennials. We have this great thing of egalitarianism, that we're all equal to each other. And it's been around a long time. Thomas Jefferson started Mr. Jefferson's University at the University of Virginia, where Charmaine used to teach. He wanted that old French thing, egalitarian, so it's already going to be bad, that we're all equal to each other. Okay. Well, we're not equal to each other. See, so here's you and here's you. We're not equal to each other, but we are equal under the law or your creator as you see him. So, but we are equal this way. We are equal to our creator. We are equal to under the law. We're equal in the eyes of the law, but we're not equal to each other. Okay, and so in this age, and the spirit of these times is that we have this sense of egalitarian, that we're all equal to each other, and we can't even hardly say superior position and subordinate, because that would imply that you're not, you're just lower, and it's not it doesn't reflect a different calling under our eyes of the Creator. And that this is what you're describing is a classic problem. And the reason why this is so bad for completed staff work is because the staff bypassing you will start asking the boss questions, and your boss, and not just your boss, but all bosses have this, because when a question comes in, the first thing is that we're tempted, like, oh gosh, I know how to do this. I've had your job before. I know exactly what you're going through, and I can, 8 minutes, and I can fix this. Okay, well, I don't have that kind of time, and what the challenge for bosses is because they did what you did. They love doing it, and they were so good at it they got promoted, and now they got to do stuff they have no idea what they're doing. Don't tell anybody, but they really don't know what they're doing. They're wrong half the time, or about a third of the time. They're wrong. You're right all the time, and you're having all the fun. She's having all this stuff to deal with, donor relations and all. Good gosh, but she knows how to do your job, so she'll be tempted to start solving the problem or the staffer's problem, and then all of a sudden you've jumped the chain of command. And here's what it looks like on the chain of command. So you have the boss, and let me spend a second talking about this, because this is important. This is you that you're describing, and this is the staff here, and what we have here, as you can see, is a simple chain, and this is how it's supposed to work, where information flows and direction flows up and down, and you'll have staff that will meet the boss in proximity. They'll bump into the office, and boss, I have a problem. And the boss says, great, this is very important. Tell me about this. And the boss knows enough to be interested, but not enough to solve the problem. But the boss might take it and then take it. And we can't have the boss take anything off our desk. Our job as doing completed staff work as individual contributors is to look at the boss's desk like a pyramid. Now, this particular pyramid has a ledge on it, but absent the ledge, if I put anything on it, it's going to slide down. I want your boss's desk to be a pyramid, so that when we put something on it, it slides off. And what you're describing here, and I can go right to the end with your staffers, they're talking directly to the boss, bypassing you. And what's happening is they're putting stuff on the boss's desk, and your boss is taking it. And she shouldn't do it, but everybody does, because it's so tempting, and it's so much fun to do. So there's a couple of things that we can do for this. First, that this it's a condition of employment that you, of course, you can talk to the boss, but the boss has to be alerted. The boss has to be trained. Boss, everybody in this building reports to you directly or indirectly. These are your people. But for me to best manage them, anytime one of my staffers talks to you, I have to know about it. So, just boss, you got if a staff comes to you, I cannot have the boss giving direction to or giving any kind of task to the staff down here, because then all of a sudden, if that starts to happen, what do we need you for? Yes, sir. I'm not done with you, but yes, sir.
Yeah, well, what I want to say is for her personally. Hello.
Hey.
What I want to say personally is, do you believe for her, like, what can she personally change? Something that I can learn from, but any one of us, is that, do you think it's accessibility or respect personally for her?
How do you mean accessibility? I think you're onto something. Explain more on accessibility. Because respect is real easy.
No, I mean you personally. Like I don't know your situation, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of people, they take that leap because they may not feel like that you're accessible, or
Might be
approachable,
or her door's closed.
Or door's closed. It could be.
I don't like her. It could be all kinds of.
Or it could be a lot of stuff. Yeah, it could be a ton of stuff. But that's when I shortened it, made it broad, like accessibility or respect.
Yeah.
Being a woman or young age, or a lot of stuff.
It sure
That's why I
is.
try to narrow it down to two different things, because I feel like in the workplace those really play a big role, especially when you have jumping change.
Right, and this is it fits into completed staff work. Let me flesh this out for you. First thing, there's a couple of easy things that you can do. Is that the staff has to know that first, because they don't know that. If in another generation, it was easy because most of leadership came out of the military, and the Army would train you on this. You would never do anything like this, and if you did, it would be an exception of policy. And there's all kinds of so the military used to train people to do that. Nowadays, there is no training, because you get it instant. You now understand it. As a result of this class, you'll walk out and you got it. But who's told your staff? How would they know that? So it's intuitive, and your wisdom and maturity says you shouldn't do this, but they don't know that. Remember, they're this egalitarian thing where they think that we're all equal together, but they're not. Yes, ma'am. Oh, they're looking for the mic.
I don't want to take the opposite view of this, in that, I don't want to be the Pollyanna saying, sometimes people do mean well, but we're living in a very transient area, being here where the turnover rate of positions is 1 to 3 years. After that, there are a few people who are more senior, but basically because of the survival of the fittest, they've been here longer.
That's right.
So they have the name recognition, and people know them. And people know they can go to them because they're here. And it's not necessarily that it's a woman issue or a race issue or even possibly a competency issue, but just because they just don't know. And being at this point in Washington for about 7.5 years, and seeing that a little bit more than I would have liked, thinking, wow, I just knew this person, to have this job, and now I know the replacement. And now I even know the replacement over the replacement. It's gotten to where you just go you go to who you know, and you go to.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And
Okay,
then my
very good.
situation is, well, I have to be proactive then, because people may know the person who I work with who's been in Washington for 30 years versus my 7. So I have to be proactive to let everybody know that I'm the go-to person. And then it's not just saying, well, I've told you. Now I have to prove that I'm worthy for you to come to me. So it's not as I don't know. I don't view it, if somebody goes to somebody else and they don't go to me, I don't view it as a disrespectful or jumping the chain of command, as much as I see it as a visibility and seeing it as a relationship issue.
Very other thoughts? Yes, Bob.
Supervising a staff of 20 and managing up to my boss, it's not managing up. And if anybody goes to my boss, I have my boss trained now. Don't respond to the email until he hears it from me. And it's setting his expectations appropriately. So it's that managing up and managing down.
Very good. Yes, of course.
One thing that I do when I'm working with new people is I just send them an email and say, here's how I want this handled. Here's how and, not be blunt about it being a condition of employment, but just, be really direct and say, that's why I'm here. We all love her, but my job is to make her job easier, and I need you to come to me. And then train her, if possible, to, when she gets those emails, just hit the forward button to you. Hit the forward button to you. And it's going to make your inbox really full, but it works.
Other thoughts? Yes, sir. Counselor?
My voice carries.
We've got one.
Okay. Using a military example, von Steuben, who was a German at the American Revolution, said that when the thing that he learned to understand about American soldiers was, if you gave them an order, they would not necessarily follow it. But if you explained the order to him, they would not merely follow it, but even do it better because they understood.
Yeah.
So say for an example with yours, which we actually faced in our office, was you say, the boss gets 400 emails a day. Rather than you giving one more email to him, you know what, send it to me and then we'll filter out what he needs to know. Otherwise, he's just overwhelmed. So you give him the why and it helps.
It sure does. Any other input? Yes, ma'am.
I just feel for you, Missy, because I've been there. And I think it's two things that we can speak to. One of them is intention. So I think sometimes it's someone just wanting to be heard and seen. And I'm guilty of that, right? Like, I just want you to know I'm working on this, and so I have this weird random question so you can see all that I'm doing and answer it. So if it's someone that's underneath us and you see that, then maybe it's like, hey, what are you? Words of affirmation? Like, let me just love on you for a second. Or what do I need to sit down, have coffee, spend some quality time with you and hear what you want to do? So that just might be something so that they know, like, I'm going to tell Kristen everything you did. You don't have to worry about that. I'm so proud of you, that sort of thing. That might be helpful. And I do think it goes to the millennial engagement, just to say, don't you hate emails? Don't you hate all the texts and the things that pop up on your screen? Let's protect her from the craziness so she can be, out there and the visionary, and we can do all the details. So sometimes it's good intention, sometimes it's not. But I think, and we know that we are smart enough to understand that when someone explains it to us, like you said you did. So.
Oh, very good. Any other input? Yes, sir.
Something, and we'll do the last military reference. Right about now, but it wouldn't be full of the Marine Corps. When I was in the Marine Corps, we're the broke branch of the military. So we depend on everyone. We depend on the Army for our rifles. We depend on the Navy for our ride, food, and medical. And pretty much have to ask for everything unless we're on a battlefield with a fully loaded weapon in our hand. When we got on to a Navy ship on our way to Afghanistan, we were not sure how long we were going to be on this ship. We had to live with probably about 2,000 other Navy personnel. Okay, Navy's a little different. A bunch of combat Marines, they spend their day has to do with dirt, physical ability, and getting through something really hard and making it to the next week. The Navy has welders, medical people, accountants, doctors, officers,
staff,
engineers. The list goes on forever. So as a Marine, to get through on that boat, you get up in the morning and you're going to wait for 2 hours straight in a line for your breakfast. Why? Because, you're the Marines and the Navy has to get the boat going, so you guys have to stay and wait. We're going to feed you. We're not going anywhere. So, just wait. How do we get around this? Because after a while, all these males on a ship who are just trained to go fight and they're contained on a tin can, it doesn't go over so well after about 2 months of just being out at sea. One thing I definitely learned was that as I came across issues on the boat, when sailors at sea, they are in full-time work mode. It's not when we're at war, it's when we're at sea and they are moving around. They are at full-time work mode. When Marines are at sea, they are on vacation until they get off the boat. So it's kind of a big contrast of two different types of worlds trying to exist and work together. One trying to get tasks done that they were trained for on a boat. The other waiting to get to the stage and go perform. So something I would start to see, because you would have to go see an accountant and stand in line to get like some cash. You would have to stand in line to see the doctor. You guys get the gist. I would see the mess hall guys, the guys who cooked all the food, the chiefs. They would have things break all the time. Metals, pins, pots, things like that. I was in artillery where we had all kinds of tools to deal with that. So instead of him having to put an order through the Navy process of things and go ahead and say, okay, well, I got to fill out this work order and they'll come sometime at the end of the week and then they'll come and fix it. And then if it's not right, I got to wait another 2 weeks for them to get the piece from the other ship. No, we got that right down there in the bottom of the boat. Let me go to the back of one of our trucks and I'll bring it up. Oh, who are you, Marine? Oh, I'm Lance Corporal Tremonti. Oh, well, I'm Chief such and such. Okay. You know what, tomorrow, why don't you come tomorrow with your unit? You guys can get at the front of the line. You can meet tomorrow morning. Sure. Well, you just made about 10 really upset men very happy and very ready to work for you. So out of that big spiel, the whole point of the story is use aggression and proactiveness. We seem to have gotten a little complacent with the term proactive. So let's add another term on it since I take marketing from Professor. Let's brand that with aggressive proactiveness. Oh, you want to ask my boss that? Well, I already know that. Here it is. There you go. Have any problems?
Right. And that's the perfect segue. Let me close this out. Ma'am, what's your name in the back that raised the issue of the collaboration? Would you say your name for me? Yeah. Ashley. Okay, good. Did we fully flesh out the counterbalance between what you were saying? In that we have a chain of command, and what it sounded like that you were suggesting is that even though there's a chain of command, we still have to work with collaboration, even though there might be a formal structure of who's the boss, who's the immediate boss, and who do I have to work with, that we still have to collaborate, and sometimes it might be possible to jump the chain of command, just as is described as the Marines just did. They jumped all kinds of chains of command to get something done. Do we fully address what you were looking at? Sure. Okay. That will do. I was going to show a clip on MASH. We're gonna hold that for the next class. We're running short of time here. But just to know that Radar O'Reilly, I would see as the patron saint of completed staff work in his ability, his almost magical ability to anticipate what the boss needed. And it's based on a real life character. The series is based on the book and the movie on MASH. And the real life character was a gentleman who was often accused of having ESP and all this strange stuff, and having this superhuman ability to hear things, because he could hear the helicopters come in before anybody else could. And he said, I was just paying attention, and I just could hear things before other people, because I was aware of it, because I would be the first one to have to take action on it. And part of what he did so well is that he could anticipate what the boss needed, and that he handled all of the paperwork so that all the boss had to do was just sign the piece of paper. And it got to the point where he would just simply hand the boss blank pieces of paper. The boss would sign it, and so trust his character, and had a track record for doing the right thing, and the content of what he was going to put on the paper, that the boss wasn't even paying attention. He was just signing blankly. So Radar O'Reilly is also I think the patron saint of concierge services too. So we'll talk about him more in the next class. I do want to take another final lap here in just a few minutes, but let me get a couple of ground rules on what completed staff will get you and what it looks like. What we want to have at the end of all of this, and as we describe this, is that you're acting as the boss's deputy. That is, that if the boss had enough time and talent, if there were enough of the boss to go around, he could solve this in the way that he wanted to, when he wanted to, and the limitations that he had. The boss could do it all, but he can't. He has to get things done through other people, through staff. That's us. Now, we're acting as individual contributors, but what I really want to do is so anticipate what the boss needs, provide him the research, options, and recommendations. That all he has to do is to make a decision. And in this way, I can act as his deputy, because when I do this so well, after a short period of time, it's a very short leap from me doing all that research, options, recommendation, to where he finally says, don't bother me, you just go ahead and do it. In later classes, we'll talk about the complete freedom that gives you and being the boss's deputy, which means that you'll be the first one to be promoted when your boss does, because you're already acting as the boss. Which is to say that the best way to be a leader or run any organization, if that's your desire, is to be a good follower. So everybody teaches leadership, but what I want to emphasize on top of that is good followership. We'll spend more time in the next classes to talk about that as we discuss the problem path and presentation on completed staff work. Let me give some more details on or some definitions. Let me run through these fast, if I may. One of the greatest criticisms I have is that I talk too fast. You can interrupt me anytime for questions, but let me talk fast. Now, one of the great challenges on taking over a project or assuming the leadership role, the management role on completed staff work, is that you don't have any authority to do something. Now, the boss could say, in your team of 10, he could say, Helen and Gilbert, I want you to run this team, and I want you to go ahead and get the expense reports from everybody on your team and tell me whether or not we should put in a ride-share program. So she's got implied authority of this task, and it's her job to coordinate with the other 3 team members with her. So a problem and an opportunity, a change is coming from above, and she now has a task and some staff work that she has to get completed. Does she have the ability to fire anybody? No, she could say, boss, you better go fire that person because they won't give me what they want. Well, I'm never going to promote her, because the real magic, the art of leadership and management is the ability to persuade, is the ability to influence. That is what power is. Authority is where I am granted the position. I am appointed by a third party. I'm appointed by my boss, a board, the stockholders, or I own the company. I have legitimate standing recognized by a third party to hold this position that gives me authority. Do it. So I can fire you. I don't want to fire anybody. That's the last result. It's a condition of employment, but that's not what I want to do. I just want to get work done. I don't want to, some people behave as tyrant, but I want to get work done through other people. And authority is granted through a third party. It is never, you can't say, I'm now in charge. You can't really do that. It's been tried before and it looks kind of bad. You can't say, I'm in charge. And even in your group, in your small work, you can't say, I'm in charge. I can't really do that. People don't like that. It's the American way. We want to be things explained to. Whereas Napoleon, as you know, when it came time for coronation, what did he do? Yeah, okay. You homeschooled? Is that right? Sorry? How do you know that?
I used to teach history.
Oh, okay, so that's right. So he's okay, so my history teachers. Okay, so my homeschoolers and my history teacher. that Napoleon crowned himself. The Pope was there, but normal and customary to have, to have a third party recognized by everybody else to appoint as an authority figure. So we can't assume this ourselves. So one of the great challenges of doing completed staff work with a team is that you don't have direct authority, you have implied authority. I guess I'm borrowing some of the boss's authority to do this, but I can only persuade. And persuasion is a function of, is a power. The most important skill that we can have is one of persuasion. In that, if I'm the boss, I can issue a command, I can direct, I can tell you what to do. That's really probably not the best way to get anything done. The best way to get it is to influence and what of persuasion, so that people understand what they have to do and why. So, but the staffer, as an individual contributor, doesn't have that authority and may not have the practice of exercising power. Okay, does that make sense? So power. So I can have lots of authority. The boss made me the boss. The boss has put me in charge of this, but I've got no power because nobody listens to me. Nobody cares what I think. See how ugly that is? All right. So, or I can have no authority. I am just in this room, but I've got natural power because, I'm a male that talks too much, or talks too loud, and is implied authority. Are you following me? Okay. So there's a difference between power and authority, and usually good bosses can exercise both, and that's how they got to be bosses, because they knew how to complete staff work when they didn't have authority. Are you following me? Okay, does that make sense? Because I'm separating those out, and it's a real distinction to see how we can get promoted, or we can be so valuable to the team that we can get more clients, influence donors, or make more, or receive all the compensation that we would deserve. Okay, does that make sense? So even if you don't aspire to management, there's still a place for this in that when you're able to exercise power, which is the ability to persuade in a group to get things done, that's valuable to me, and I'm going to, in a good organization, I know that's stretching it, but in a good organization, I'm going to recognize that power by compensating you more. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So, so power is simply the ability to influence. Authority is appointed or implied. Two more ground rules, and then we'll do a lap. One of the difference between policy and procedure. In DC, most people understand the differences. But policy is set by a third party, set by the boss. The boss sets the policies. We as individual contributors, we don't make policy. We simply implement the policy, and we do that through procedures. So, so with policy, these are simple rules of the road set by higher authority, and we manage the policies can be managed by exception, as an exception to policy. Procedure is how policy is implemented. It's carried out by us and a lower authority, and the easiest way that we implement procedures is through standard operating procedures. That this is a standard way of doing things, and it's an SOP, and it's just a very shortcut way of getting things. Now, usually staff work, completed staff work, works with both of these because sometimes we will, if we're going to operate outside the chain of command, that is an exception to policy. Okay, but very few are going to beat up that Marine for helping the chief get something done so that his people get fed sooner. So he's, did he violate the chain of command? Yeah. Did something good happen to it? Yes. Who am I going to promote? Him. Okay. Did that make sense? Did that follow? Okay. Now, as part of your handouts, I've got the overview for just today's lesson, and there's 3 pages on the there's three I call them days at the end. This is a publication, a manuscript that I'm working on. Should be published either late this year or next year, and it's called Bible Management. And what this is that I've taken a Bible verse, then a headline and a 1-word or 2-word description, a business vignette, a biblical application, and how we use a timeless wisdom for business problems. So there's 3 days on this, and one of them it talks about staff work itself, of where it is finished, and on March the 8th is the vignette about Henry Kissinger reading staff work, and on the 27th of April it talks about who else has the answer besides your manager on the economy of getting things done without asking the boss, without bothering the boss. All right. Now we've got exactly 40 minutes left. What I want to do now is take a final lap around the room of a 1-word description or something that you learned. If there's a fit between what we came in and what we're leaving with, and we'll have a conversation as we run around the room. And Janine, I'm going to have you go first because you got the mic that's closest to you on this. And we're going to do a lap, but if you have a comment, we're going to interrupt the lap and for comments. Did that make sense? All right. Okay. So,
well, my react is that it's really helpful just to be reminded of the boss's time.
That's right.
Right. And also just in terms of thinking of completing staff work, I love the analogy of Kissinger because I think so often it's easy for us to pass stuff up to the boss.
Throw it over the transom.
The boss has done the job before, and like the boss will catch things, and maybe sometimes the boss has an expertise that we don't even have, and it's more time for us to do that. But ultimately, our jobs is to save the boss time. So I thought that was incredibly useful and a good reminder, and also just from my experience, when we see staff work get fully complete, it's less time off the boss.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Because it's less that she has to ask and double check and go through that whole analysis. So.
That's right. Yeah, we don't need to be taught as much as we need to be reminded. The reason why I'm doing these checkups as we walk through the room is because everybody, you've heard this before in some capacity. Most of you have heard this before in some way. So the reason why I do this over 4 classes is so that we're reminded, and then it becomes a habit, and this would be a good habit, which then is as Aristotle tells us, is a virtue. So we're not going to pick up a habit on one seminar. As talented as your business professor may be, it probably won't stick, and it might be forgotten. So that is very helpful. That for the reminders of doing this. Yes, ma'am. What'd you learn?
Just how to be more effective. It really impacted me what you were saying about taking a look at everything before handing a decision to us, and doing all the research and just making it easier and saving time, a lot of time by doing that. So time management.
And a way that it certainly is time management. And one of the things that we're looking for on this is effectiveness, which effectiveness, the definition is that we advance organizational goals. What does the organization want to get done? Now, the reason why this is a challenge for us sometimes as individual contributors is that we do faster, better, cheaper. So we can save the organization time by doing completed staff work, but a lot of completed staff work is a lot of legwork. I'm checking around with a lot of people just to make sure something bad doesn't happen. Well, that takes time. Okay, so and in a way that looks horribly inefficient, depending upon how much time we have. So that's a good point. Yes, ma'am. What'd you come up with?
I just liked your one line about. I liked everything you said, but I liked specifically this one line about seeing problems as opportunities.
Yeah.
It's a really good reminder. You don't have to teach that again, but a reminder that any problem has tons of solutions, and that if we come at it from that positive approach versus a negative, we have this huge glaring problem. Then we have an opportunity to serve our boss and serve our organization.
And that's how you best serve your boss is to say, boss, I'm bringing a solution. Boss sees problems all day long. I got another problem. I got, and that as a result of this class, you will not walk into your boss and say, boss, what do you want me to do? You will have some idea of some solution, of a recommendation, even if it's not fully fleshed out because the time didn't allow. But we come in with some things, with some kind of, to show that your boss that you're trying to come up with a solution. Because time will often not let you do that. Exactly right. Yes, sir.
It's useful to see you're not only managing or persuading the people under you, but you're also managing your boss's time.
Yeah.
That shows him the respect for his time and the position he's in.
Yeah, exactly. Because we have no authority over our boss. Boss has authority over us, but we might have lots of power over our boss. In fact, one of the things as employees, very slow to say this, is that we have more power as employees, as direct reports, than we think that we do. Because your boss doesn't want to fire you, doesn't want to, even if you're not violating the terms of condition of employment, it's just too much to replace you. You have more power than you think that you do over your boss. And the best way to help your boss is to make sure that we don't leave anything on his desk, okay? Because we want the stuff to slide off. Because the boss will be tempted to keep it because it's interesting. And it is interesting. I want to read this, but you don't have time for that. Yeah, so make sure that the boss's desk is a pyramid to slide off. Yes, sir.
I really enjoyed the conversation about what's wrong with jumping.
Yeah, the chain of command, you're right.
And why sometimes, you jump it anyway or go completely around it.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. As an exception to policy. Right. And how we violate that standard operating procedure. And that's what wisdom and judgment is. And with entry-level employees and with children, we have to have sharp guardrails and as a policy, but there might be times for us to go off-road. But if we do that, if we violate the chain of command, then we better have a real good reason. The building might have to be on fire. Okay, and if the building's on fire, we're not going to have a committee.
I think it was definitely changing my perspective from this isn't just about being a good manager, but me being a good manager is a way of serving my boss.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of had this shift because I came in here thinking I want to be a servant leader. I want to manage these people well, understanding my inexperience, but then seeing, well, me doing my job well is actually serving Kristen.
It sure is, yeah. And also one of the things that you can help Kristen with, or any CEO, not for you, but for any CEO, is to make sure that your boss this you doesn't have CC, isn't blind copy, in other words, tell her that if it's not to her, then for her to have to go in a spam file, or you look at her, somebody looks a carbon copy, because what's happening a lot of times with the staffers, you're sending them an email, but they're copying the boss. And yeah, shake your head. That's right. You don't. But the problem is that the staffer copied the boss, and the boss read it. Okay, so we got 2 problems there. So don't copy the boss at all. If it's going to go to her, through me, and your boss should not have just everything that's not in the 2-line goes into another filter, I don't want to call it spam, but into another folder. The boss should only read stuff that comes directly to her. She's going to have enough to do with as it is. Yes, sir, counselor.
I'm just reminded that my first law firm, the partner said, "Never come to me with a problem without a solution."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly. This was some kind of recommendation. Absolutely right.
One thing I wanted to, you were talking about power, that employees have more power.
More, they certainly do.
I think another word to use there is influence.
Sure, exactly.
I was blown away this week. Somebody came to me and said, "Do you realize the influence that you have in this town?" And I said, "But I don't have a paycheck right now. How can I have influence?" The person just looked at me and said, No, you're not hearing it. And so today was a really powerful reminder to me that influence is not always attached to a paycheck.
No, it's not.
Paychecks are really helpful to pay the rent and buy groceries. And B, I needed to hear you say that it was okay to learn as you go.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Because that's the thing that has held me back, and it's not going to hold me back anymore from pursuing some things that I want to do in this town, because I was afraid I didn't have the credentials and the training behind me. And you've tried to tell me this before, but it was a really good reminder today.
Yeah. So. No, and because in this business of one of persuasion, it's all on the job. We can teach you the science all day long on how to do this, but it's an art form. What do you think?
The point I'm taking away today is it's kind of a reminder, just like you said, but the power of persuasion.
Yeah.
It's just really powerful. Yeah. But not only knowing that, but actively using it.
Sure. Yeah.
For doing business for good.
That's right. And that's right. And you, like I tell the kids, my kids over here, use your power for good. Your money for mom, but use your power for good. Yes, Dad. But you're exactly, because it is. Remember, you're building confidence in somebody that they have confidence for you. And the problem is at the point of sale, you can't. If I don't know you, there's no difference between having confidence in you and a con man. It's exactly the same. So, so I've got to trust your character and where you're coming from, literally where you're coming from, what umbrella organization, because I can't tell the difference. And that's why persuasion is such a frightful skill. And that's why crooks can get away with this stuff. It's like white collar. Yeah. All right, Rob.
I think it's good to just to go back to basics.
Yeah, it is.
Sometimes I lose sight of things and just how we get feedback.
It's not. It's not hard, is it? It's really simple.
I think my biggest takeaway is just trying to maximize my time and my boss's time, because yes, it's great when I plan their schedule, when they go and meet donors and students and they're, planning all of these events, but just, maximizing my time so that I can do that. And then also do more research on top of that, and just kind of making sure that it's easy. And I don't say, here's what I've done, what should I do? Instead of filtering it just a little more so that we can have better, more insightful conversations.
There's always going to be stuff to do but you're going to run out of time. You'll probably run out of time. When you're planning the boss's itinerary, you're trying to anticipate everything that could possibly go wrong and give the boss all the research they knew with the limited time that you have to get together. Every possible question on how to get your boss to the donors meeting and the right time and in good order. Now, and this is really hard to do. Now, this is a true story about the Bay of Pigs. The invasion of Cuba. And it's a horrible, horrible story. CIA is running this operation. They're flying out of, I think, Honduras. Flying out of Honduras. they're flying out of Central America and flying over to Cuba, okay, and they're flying over there to support them, and they didn't quite get the completed staff work right. They just didn't quite because they didn't know there was a time change involved. So if the CIA can't get a time zone right, so this is what makes our job tough because. And that was one of the things that the invasion didn't work and American lives are lost because they couldn't figure out what was Central Time and Atlantic Time. Like, what? CIA screwed up. Yes, sir. What'd you come up with?
Kind of looking back at the last section when you showed us the King of Scotland, last King of Scotland, and how powerful influence because he wasn't able to advise him.
That's right.
Influence him to make the right decision. So it kind of, circles back to that on how powerful, my expertise really comes in play, makes my manager's job easier. And I think I need to do a better job of doing a more 360, consistently doing that, and making sure that I have it back.
That's right.
Yeah, and then just really making things more simpler, the way she can understand it to kind of interpret it moving forward. So.
Yeah, that's an excellent point on it. He's referring to a video clip on from a movie where we talk about persuasion, and that if the boss doesn't buy what we're selling, whose fault is it? Is it my fault or the boss's fault? Yeah, it's my fault. If I didn't sell them, if I didn't persuade them, it's my fault. It's not the boss's fault. Yes, sir. What'd you come up with?
Hi, Jack. Thanks. I think to reiterate what some others said is it's been a good reminder to be respectful of your boss's time.
Yes.
That's always
yes.
And I particularly like the Radar O'Reilly analogy and anticipation. One thing though that kind of came to my mind as we're talking today, and maybe we'll address it more in the future, is the situation that arises, and there's some of it here and some of it I've experienced in the past, but when your boss is the sole keeper of institutional knowledge.
Oh, wow. Oh, no.
And you're trying to be respectful of time, but you're put in a position to have to make decisions and solve problems when the only person you can turn to is somebody.
Oh, gosh.
So I throw that out there.
No, and you're exactly right. And that's and I don't know how to fix that with completed staff work because that's a management succession challenge in that, Lord forbid, if a guy got run over by a truck, he's got to be grooming his successor, and that's not there's other ways to do that. And that's I don't know how you get anything done. All right, yes, ma'am. What'd you come up with?
I hope I'm not oversimplifying this, but basically it's just a reminder to just go out and do it. At the very beginning, we were hired to do a job for what, and we need to be letting that go out. And then 1 Thessalonians 5:24, as you were talking at the very beginning, it kept bringing that to mind where it says, faithful is he who called you, who also will do it. And I have a job that I have to do, and I have to do it, but thankfully, and this is where we get to be covered in grace, the Lord kind of works in the details there. And I don't want to just say he minds the gap with our shortcomings, but thankfully he knows them and can work those out even for his glory. But we have to do the job and learn how to do it with excellence, despite the fact that we're imperfect.
That's perfect, because we don't want to be the one that's always asking, what do I do, or waiting to be told. And I don't get a sense that that's the challenge for anybody in this room. But with a lot of entry-level employees, they'll sit and interview and wait till somebody tells them what to do. And that is not good stewardship of your time or your boss's time. Very good. Andy?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway, I think, was that the track record is so important.
Yeah,
It will make his job easier if they don't have to every time read all the content or wait for themselves to be fully persuaded by your arguments. Because if you've proven yourself in the past that you can produce good content or give good advice, then they can just rubber stamp it. And move
it gets
forward.
shorter and shorter and shorter. Yeah, absolutely. Ms. Paris.
I think it's important to know that being a follower is just as important as being a leader, and taking note of listening to each other and their ideas.
Because let me brag on Christina for a second, because she's my teaching assistant at Catholic University, and I still can't figure out how she did this. So we're doing for the book, doing the end notes, and I have a seat, 3 seats, and so I threw all the transom, all the stuff to her. I said, "Can you figure this out? Go because there's 1 seat left on this, and I paid for it. It's already there. But go figure it out." And I knew it was going to be a mess. I just knew it was going to be a mess. And she found a way to solve my problem, which is that she did a 30-day trial and got it, So after all, with other staffers, they might have said, "I can't do it. I can't figure out how to activate the software." And instead, she found out a way around, and I know that there was some time involved, and some work involved, and she's too much of a professional to tell me, here's the hassle I had to go through to get this silly thing for you, boss, and make sure that's all billable time, by the way, okay? that we pay you for that. But she solved my problem, okay? Because that's all I did was just so we could start working on this thing. Does that make sense? It was completed. It was done. Now I still have to download I still got to figure it out, but we got time for that. We can get started on the project. So, completed staff work. Yes, sir. Yeah, you.
I guess the biggest thing that stuck with me so far through this is the variances of power and influence.
That's right.
That I'm taking from listening to you. I've worked under a pretty much workaholic control for a small investment firm in DuPont, and I work as a buffer in between her and people well into their 50s and 60s who never worked one day at their life. This is 2 huge different contrasts. And my boss prior to that was a nun for 30 years. So the selflessness that she carries through everything she does and how she addicts herself to each task she tries to complete. I have to play a buffer, and when you get into that middle management, so to say, position, it's not middle because one's above you and one's below you. It's because you're in between 2 contracts. Yeah. I have to manage my boss, and I also have to manage these clients. Yeah. I have to manage the thorns and the crap that's going to come at my boss today, and try to filter that and screen that for her. She's going to then in turn remember, okay, what came through today? She's going to ask me today, what happened? Who called? Who's here? Who's asking?
Sure.
And I got to break it down. And I know what she's doing when she walks away. She says, okay, I didn't have to deal with that. He did it. I didn't have to deal with that.
That's right.
And then on the other end, where I have to deal with people that I'm explaining things to a lot because they just don't know, you start to become that hub. And then through the power and influence, as I was talking about with the naval ship situation, you create power and influence through favors. Grab people's problems. Hey, we just started working together. You've been here a year, yeah, what's that? You can post it too. Go. Start as simple as that on your first day. What do you do? That's what you do.
Sure. The smallest thing.
And watch that grow. And watch people just start to naturally refer to you on every necessity. Now, careful, because you'll bring on a lot more than you asked for. But you don't want to lash out at that. But yeah.
That's being a real servant, too. I think we got 3 more, and we'll close with you, Gibby.
So the 2 things that I kind of struck me were conforming to the buying habits of your boss. I've
never
thought of it in those terms before. And then the seeing a problem, the individual contributor seeing a problem before your boss. And the influence.
That's right. We'll always see that before. That's right. And on the last class, we'll talk about presentations, and that's a marketing exercise. That's a selling exercise of how we're going to present this so the boss can buy it. And there are going to be things that he's going to like that because of your track record, you'll know about. And we'll talk more about that last class. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was just, again, it's a good reminder to come with a recommendation always.
Yes.
For me, I'm 6 weeks into my job, so I know very little, and we also have sort of the similar problem with the boss having all the institutional knowledge and not great knowledge sharing tools at the minute. So for me, that's constantly difficult to make a recommendation when I have very little knowledge and very little resources. But at the same time, it's a great reminder to at least try to. And there's
exactly. No, you're exactly. But even though it's 6 weeks on the job, even though with every limitations of time on the job, time and grade, it's time there, with all of the limitations, to do something. Say, boss, here's a challenge we have. I recommend we do this, and your boss will say, oh no, you need to consider these other things, or say no, reject, or do something. But do something, because even if you come with any kind of recommendation, because you thought about it for another 45 seconds than he did or she did, then it's something. And if for no other reason, the boss may be distracted working on a bigger problem and say, that is 80% there, but that's good enough. He's thinking, he won't say that to you. That's good. And then go do it. And that might be enough. But to even be thinking like that, I would love to have staff bring me recommendations, even if it's not right, if it's fast, it probably will be half baked if there's a time limitation. Okay, Helen Gilbert, we'll close with you. Where'd you learn? Helen Gilbert is rowing at the University of Bucknell here in the fall, so she's a recruited athlete.
Well, since I'm probably going to be working as an undergraduate research assistant at Bucknell, it really struck me when he talked about bringing a solution to a problem, as opposed to just kind of asking your boss what to do.
That's right. We don't want to ask the boss what to do. Okay, well, and 2 minutes over. Any questions? Any closing questions? Very good. We'll see you next month. Oh, thank you. Well, it's a good job. Thank you. Yeah, Jack, yes, Peter, the good guys, yes.
Yeah. I was wondering, do you work with Dana Bella?
Yeah, he's my boss.
Oh, okay.
Great guy.
Yeah, so we Adam Kissel works with him.
That's right. Yeah, he's been in my office. He's a great guy.
Yeah. I'm fortunate to work with him. I'm actually going to try to visit.
Come on down. Come on up.
I live a mile from the school.
Is that right?
So
Okay.
even though I don't work with him directly, I'm like, well, I'm interested in
You
that.
drive by it, just come.
Exactly.
Yeah, come on by. I mean, this is right. Yeah, because I'm one floor up. I work out of the graduate offices, so I teach the grad school and undergrads, and so we're big fans.
Yeah, great.
Big fan. I mean that sincerely, and not everybody in academia is fans. So
Right,
which really. So anyway, but thank you.
I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.